There is a quality that certain people have that is almost impossible to articulate, but immediately perceptible. You notice it within seconds of meeting them. Something about the way they speak, the way they hold themselves, the way their words and their energy arrive in the room as a single, unified signal, rather than two separate things that don't quite match. You trust them before you know why. You believe what they say before you've had time to evaluate it. And on the other side of that, there is a quality that certain other people have that produces the opposite effect. Something feels off. You cannot name it. You might even talk yourself out of it, but the feeling doesn't leave. What you are detecting in both cases is not charisma. It is not confidence. It is not likability in the social sense. What you are detecting is the presence or absence of congruence, the degree to which a person's internal experience and their external expression are the same thing. Carl Rogers identified this as the most important attribute a human being can develop. Not intelligence, not skill, not social grace. Congruence. The state where there is no gap between what you are and what you present. Where the signal your nervous system sends and the signal your words send arrive at exactly the same time, carrying exactly the same message. Part 1. What the research actually found. Researchers at UC Berkeley set out to test a paradox. Human beings are consistently poor conscious lie detectors, performing at roughly 54% accuracy in traditional detection tasks, barely better than chance. And yet, it makes no evolutionary sense that a social species as sophisticated as humans developed no reliable mechanism for detecting deception. The answer they found was that the detection mechanism exists. It simply does not operate at the level of conscious awareness. Using reaction time measures, participants who had watched someone lying responded significantly faster to deception-related words when thinking about that person afterward. Participants who had watched someone telling the truth responded faster to truthfulness-related words. The nervous system had registered the incongruence and encoded it, even when the conscious mind had failed to identify it. The researchers concluded that unconscious instincts may be more accurate than conscious thought when detecting whether someone is being genuine. The body knows before the mind does, and the body of the person being observed is leaking the information whether they intended to or not. FBI research extended this further into the specific channels through which incongruence surfaces. When motivated people lie and face real consequences upon detection, deception emerges as leakage across multiple simultaneous channels: facial expressions, gestures, body language, voice, and the actual words spoken. What the research found was not that liars fidget or avert their eyes. Those are popular misconceptions with almost no scientific support. What they found was something more precise and more significant. Liars produce nonverbal behaviors that are inconsistent with the content and context of their words. A person denying something while their face flashes fear. A person expressing enthusiasm while their body remains completely still. The words say one thing, everything else says another. And when facial expression inconsistency was combined with statement analysis, researchers could correctly classify 90% of participants as truthful or deceptive. The gap between the interior and the exterior is not invisible. It broadcasts. Part 2. The mechanism you cannot control. Microexpressions are fleeting expressions of concealed emotion that occur as fast as 1/15 of a second. They are involuntary. They cannot be suppressed through conscious effort because they happen before conscious effort can intervene. They are the body's immediate, automatic, uncensored response to what is actually being experienced. And they are universal across race, culture, gender, and nationality. Every human face expresses the same emotions in the same ways. What varies is whether those expressions align with what the person is simultaneously saying and projecting. This is why you cannot fake congruence. The incongruent person is managing an impossible task, trying to consciously control every channel of communication simultaneously, while also constructing and delivering a message that contradicts what they actually feel or believe. The FBI research describes this precisely. The liar wrestles with their emotions and thoughts, actively trying to manage facial and body expressions, voice tone, verbal style, and words, all while monitoring the other person's reaction. That cognitive load is itself a signal. The processing required to maintain incongruence at scale produces a particular quality of presence, a slight lag, a subtle effortfulness, an energy that feels like it is working rather than simply being. Rogers understood this from the therapeutic side. The congruent person does not have this problem. When your internal experience and your external expression are the same thing, there is nothing to manage, nothing to monitor, nothing to maintain. The signal arrives clean because there is only one signal, and the nervous system of everyone in contact with that person reads the coherence as trustworthiness, as presence, as something they cannot explain but immediately recognize as real. Part 3. What self-deception costs. The most disturbing form of incongruence is not the person who deceives others. It is the person who has deceived themselves so thoroughly and for so long that the gap between who they actually are and who they present has become invisible to them. The self-deception source describes this through the concept of internal and external masking, the unconscious process by which we hide our flaws not just from others, but from ourselves, constructing what it calls the noble lie, the fictitious story we tell ourselves to maintain a positive self-image in the face of our actual character. The danger of this is not primarily social, it is personal. Maintaining self-deception requires a massive and ongoing expenditure of psychological energy diverted away from genuine growth, genuine connection, genuine engagement with the actual conditions of your life. Tolstoy illustrated the endpoint of this in Ivan Ilyich, a Russian magistrate who spent his entire life going up in public opinion, accumulating the external markers of a successful and respectable existence, only to find at death's door that he had been going downhill the entire time. Life was ebbing away from him at precisely the rate that his public reputation was rising. The two processes were inversely related because one was real and one was constructed, and the constructed one required everything he had to maintain. The people around Ivan Ilyich felt the incongruence. They responded to him with a particular quality of social politeness that never became genuine warmth. They were correct. There was nothing genuine to be warm toward, only the performance, which everyone's nervous system had registered without anyone consciously articulating it. Final thoughts. Rogers said congruence exists on a continuum rather than on an all-or-nothing basis. Nobody is fully congruent. The gap between interior and exterior is part of being human. We all manage impressions. We all present differently in different contexts. We all have parts of ourselves we have not fully examined or integrated. The question is not whether the gap exists. The question is how large it is and whether it is closing or widening. What the research confirms, from Berkeley's unconscious detection studies to the FBI's leakage research to Rogers' clinical observations, is that other people's nervous systems are tracking that gap, whether you are aware of it or not. The trust you generate or fail to generate, the presence you have or lack, the quality of connection you are capable of, all of it is downstream of the degree to which what you are and what you present are the same thing. Dostoevsky wrote, "Above all, don't lie to yourself. The man who lies to himself and listens to his own lie comes to a point where he cannot distinguish the truth within him or around him, and so loses all respect for himself and for others." That is not a moral instruction. It is a description of a psychological process with a predictable endpoint. The gap between who you are and who you present will surface. The only variable is whether you surface it yourself or let it leak through every interaction you will ever have until someone else names it for you.